The answer to the question posed in the title of this video may not be what you expect, and it may be rather anticlimactic, but that actually is a very good sign for where silver is going in the future, at least in my view, and I'll explain why as we explore. For those of you who've been following this channel for any length of time, you know that I'm cautiously optimistic, and that sometimes can come across as being negative about silver. But I believe in being realistic about the metal over the long course of time, because no matter what the price of silver does, there's more to silver than just its price. And I say that full well knowing that we are on the march to $50 silver. Will we get there? Well, likely. Now, I've not promised to do a revised prediction video for where I think silver's price is going to go before the end of the year, although I will say that I've been right about silver for probably about half the time that I've been making the predictions about the metal, and that's a good average, right? I like to think that my guesses about the market and about what silver is going to do is fairly educated, although, just as with anything, anybody and everyone will and can be wrong. But nonetheless, there are certain drivers and factors that are at play that I think look good for silver beyond, that's right, beyond $50 an ounce. And essentially, what I mean by that, the answer to the question is, what happens when silver reaches $50 an ounce? Well, pretty much nothing. None of the fundamentals have really changed with regards to the silver market. And a lot of the same themes are still coming up and amplifying the reasons why silver's price is going up. This time, it's different. That's a cliche we hear that most of us dismiss, but in reality, it is very different now than it was in 2011 and in 1980. So I think this is why I think the answer to the question, nothing, as to what happens when silver reaches $50 an ounce, because everything is going to continue moving in the same direction as it has. At least that's what I feel. Now, inflation is one of those things that is occurring, but I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about the dollar. But before we get that, I want to remind you of channel sponsor Summit Metals. Now, am I saying that silver's price is just going to continue to march on up well above $50 an ounce? Maybe, maybe not. I think we're going to see some resistance, but the resistance that we've been seeing to the rally has been very minimal, hence why we've seen silver rise about 60% plus this year. Summit Metals has been a good place to go, and as testimonies from some of you in the comments section, with some very few exceptions, they've enjoyed their experience with Summit Metals, the customer service experience and the prices, and the fact that they will also buy your precious metals if you need or want to sell. But the dollar is continuing to lose in terms of its value month over month. 0.3% is the PCE numbers that we recently got, and that is part of what has contributed, I think, to a higher silver price. The value of this is declining, and the price of this is increasing, but the value of it remains the same. For those of us who have been stacking during the stagnant periods, well, we have to rely on that value more so than the price, because that price is just a measure of what the market thinks it is. But history is a better guide as to where silver is going to go. And right now, we're in a sense seeing some of the reflection of history finally making a comeback and recognizing the true value of silver, at least to some extent, with regards to its price. But the word I want to talk to you about here as to why I think silver could continue to go up is convergence. That's right. We're seeing a convergence of what's going on with all the different factors that are at play that express the fundamentals of silver and why it's gone up over 60% this year so far. And what is that? Well, we've got all these different factors from industrial demand and a prolonged supply deficit in the fifth year of that happening right now, at least by most every measure, and if it's not an actual deficit, it's very close to it by the most conservative of analysts out there, and heightened safe haven demand that we're seeing against the geopolitical tensions which continue and economic uncertainty. We have now what has been reported by the Secretary of War gathering up all of his admirals and generals in one place, although the White House is downplaying what that could mean, has a lot of people wondering and guessing and quite concerned. And that could be one of the multiple faceted reasons why silver's price continues to go up, and geopolitical concerns. And then we have the other thing too with mining. Silver is mostly mined as a byproduct of other metals. And that means that primary silver miners are fewer and far between these days. But there's a lot of silver being produced by these other as byproduct of other metals, but it's not enough to meet the demand for the metal, and therefore it's having an effect. And that effect is occurring with the short and long positions starting to shift now. The long positions are now going to be dominating, and this is why the price is moving up here. Now we know the largest of driver of the is for silver demand for the price is going to be all of these different uses. There's 10,000 plus uses of silver nowadays, and it just keeps rising. The versatility and the more silver that's needed, even with photovoltaics, when you think about usually these improvements and these advancements in technology, that means you can do more with less, but not in the case for solar panels, as I've talked about in a video actually quite some time ago, where some of the newer advancements will require more silver. That's right, and we know that we have to understand that with other assets like Bitcoin falling in the market and out of favor, silver and gold are going up. We've seen that happen within the last week or two, with Bitcoin going down and silver going up. I also talked about how silver has increasing its market cap position, overtaking Amazon. It has now well overtaken Amazon and is creeping up on Google. And that's a big deal. That's an incredible development for sure as we continue to watch these markets move. But in the end, all of those dynamics converging together means that not much has changed, and not much will change when silver reaches $50 an ounce. But what it doesn't mean is that what it doesn't mean is that the economy is going to collapse. There's some very good aspects of the economy that are starting to come out as well too. And I want to be as intellectually honest there as possible, because it can get very political with regards to the reporting of the numbers and the chefs at the Cook the Books Club. And of course, that can work both ways, to be honest with you. And but nonetheless, there are some good economic GDP numbers there that are in place, and I think some of it is this dramatic shift from tariff revenue to other things that are going on that are going to be a detriment to some aspects of the economy and emboldened in other areas, especially the domestic economy of the United States of America. And so those have yet to really be realized, and that higher demand, especially for manufacturing in the United States that requires silver, is going to be nothing but a positive, I think, with regards to what's happening there. Now, with uncertainty in the markets, supply chain disruptions, and everything that's going on, we're starting to see a situation now where silver likely will continue to go up. Now, I'm not going to give you a number of where I think it's going to be by the end of the year, because in a way it's late enough that it's hard to really say. It's going to continue to climb up. And I'll do my 2026 prediction video towards the end of the year or the beginning of next year. But I believe that silver is poised to continue to rise, and I'm cautiously optimistic. Now remember, to the next trading day, and of course I do a Market Watch live stream every Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope you will join me when we cover silver and gold and the other precious metals as the markets move. But we could see a dramatic pullback. Profit taking could happen, and it could be completely natural. It's like, hey, I've made 13% of my money. I'm going to cash out now, and we see a bunch of selling that occurs. That could happen, and we just don't know. And we should be prepared for a pretty big correction at some point in time. And I don't know when that's going to happen or occur, but if that does happen, it should not in any way dissuade our ability to be confident that we're doing the right thing and stacking silver. It's having that diamond fist, holding on tightly to your silver is crucial and key. Because I believe that in the power of holding is extreme, folks, and that's what it's about. We have true, actual money in our hand, as designated by the Constitution of the United States of America, as well as the Bible. Obviously, it's not active money now, but I think this is something of true value and worth. And it's worth holding on to, even at $50 an ounce. That's right. The temptation to sell will be great. And obviously, I know there's places that you can buy it. You can buy it from and sell it to, like the channel sponsor. But I believe it's good to have a strong stack in your possession, even if there's a portion of it you want to liquidate. It's fine to do that, especially if it's something that's going to advance your position in life, or if there's a need. But it's always good to have a core stack, a good foundation of a savings vehicle, an insurance policy against the worst case scenario. And I'm telling you, folks, $50 silver does not mean that the economy is going to collapse. It's not a worst case scenario in this situation, but things are certainly different with the convergence of all these factors that were not there in 2011, and they were not there in 1980. So there's where it is. So let me know what your thoughts are. But I think that in a sense, really, I think it's exciting to watch silver move up like this, but we should not be spoiled by it. Because you never know what can happen. So many people are thinking, you know what, hey, this is looking like a pretty darn good investment. And yes, it is in the grand scheme of things of how it's reacted in 2025. But folks, remember, this is the exception rather than the rule. And even though the convergence of all these factors that I've mentioned to you in this video are in play, and they're not going to all just go away tomorrow, but nonetheless, normalcy will come back in play sometime again. And what will silver look like then in terms of its price? Who knows? Likely we're going to see a much higher floor than what we saw after the 2011 rise. But nonetheless, we know what it looks like physically now and what it will look like physically after the fact and back in, quote, normal times. That is unchanging, and that is what we should focus on. So with that being said, I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.